So welcome everybody. My name is Greg Fredericks and I'm the Regional Coordinator for Social Studies and Blended Learning here at PNW BOCES and the Administrator for SSELA. And thank you so much for being here today. We're very happy and excited to be joined by our colleagues at Newsela who are going to share some really terrific social studies resources that can be integrated into the classroom space. And thank you for making the time today. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. So welcome, Ashley, and thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Feel free, those of you who have joined us, to introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm sure you see each other more frequently than I'm seeing you right now. My name is Ashley Hart. I am the Curricular Solution Architect that works on the New York State team. Super fancy title to say that I work with district leaders and school leaders to really understand priorities and also challenges in the world of curriculum. So today we'll focus on social studies, of course, and I help folks understand how they can leverage Newsela content in a really powerful way to meet certain needs, but also to complement curriculum that you're already using, like SSELA. So we'll talk a little bit about that. My colleague Christy is also on the call today, and I believe Anissa is as well. So Christy, I'll hand it over to you. I don't know if you wanted to say a few words or put you on the spot. Well,
I know, but I have something from 3 to 3:30.
Oh, I think somebody came off mute by accident. Well, Christy is the New York State Partnerships representative, so a lot of you have known her and met her prior to. If you have questions after today or you want to connect with both of us at some point, feel free to reach out to her. Her contact information will be in the follow-up for you all. So thanks so much for coming. I think I said this at the top of the hour, but it's a very busy time of year and it's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday. So kudos to you for showing up and really wanting to learn a little bit more about how Newsela is more than news. We'll talk a little bit today about how we can support the New York State 6 social studies practices that folks grapple with on a daily basis, think deeply about how they can integrate them into their content area lessons. In addition to that, we'll share some free resources with you as well. So we have a fantastic collection around civic inquiry that has a clear connection to our time of year here. So looking at midterm election resources. So we'll be sure to dig into that and share the link for you because that's available now and it's for free. It's a very rich resource that we're excited to share. So for folks on the call with us today, a lot of folks use us in terms of who we were in the past, and we still are. A big component of us is current events. So since 2013, we've published current events at 5 different reading levels. But since then, we've really evolved. So since then, we've really expanded into the product suite that you see here. And this product suite has over 15,000 pieces of content now for all disciplines. So ELA, social studies, science, and the arts. We span over 20 different genres as well. And we include now fiction, poetry, and drama. And a lot of folks don't realize that as well. So if you're looking for those literary connections within your social studies classrooms, that's a realm that we can support with too. We still offer all of our nonfiction at 5 different reading levels. Those reading levels span from grade 2 all the way up to grade 12. Some folks don't realize the vast window of reading levels that we span there. And in addition to me aligning to national standards, we also align to state standards as well for literacy and content area standards in social studies. You'll see a little bit more today about how we can support your use of curriculum like the SSELA collection with content that's on Newsela that's now curated specifically for the discipline of social studies and really bringing that alive for teachers and students. We offer also lots of opportunity to continue building that background knowledge that we know is so important and also embedding those really important moments of literacy and inquiry into day-to-day planning, and also really strengthening that tier 2 instruction too. So this is a little bit more of what I just stated, but we do have curated collections and also active reporting of how students are reading and writing in the discipline. So you can look at content and how students are interacting with it across the board. So holistically, how they're reading in all the different areas, but specific to you, when we think about the social studies program, it may be really interesting to see how they're specifically reading within their history and social sciences classes and lessons. Oftentimes students are reading up, especially if they have a passion for social studies and they love doing the deep work there. I love to point this out. Obviously, we have authentic content on the platform. I love to remind people of that. We partner with over 170 different content providers to do the work that we do in leveling at those 5 different reading levels. We also add new content every day. So when we talk about it being constantly updated, we really mean that. We add nonfiction and fiction text every day, videos as well, and all the nonfiction being leveled. So whether you're looking to explore an enduring issue like colonization or decolonization with our timely Indigenous Peoples Day collections, or maybe you're looking for a way to look at culture and history through, we have this awesome article that was recently published around New York City bagel rollers and the history behind that. And there's always new and exciting ways to leverage the content and keep your teachers really sparked too, in terms of wanting to bring, new things into their planning. So today we'll spend a little bit of time providing you all with a sampling of how Newsela can support the practices and instruction for the social studies classroom. And again, we'll share some midterm election resources that really can enrich what you're already doing in the classroom, but bring in perhaps some new modes of learning. We have some live polling that you can do through Newsela during election season. So that's a nice addition. Really authentically getting students to weigh in on what topics are most important to them. So without further ado, I do want to call out that SSELA, the curriculum that you're using, it does a fantastic job of bringing those practices to life that we see in the New York State framework. So really wanting to build off of that initial foundation, Newsela Social Studies is another way that you can enhance what you're already using in the classroom by providing more accessible content, additional supports too for tier 1 and tier 2 instruction, and providing your students and teachers with more at-bats in terms of the deep work that is necessary. And it's often complex work as well when you're trying to bring these social studies practices alive, also while reinforcing those literacy skills. So today we'll take a look at a couple of collections that we have within Newsela Social Studies here. Here are the 6 practices. We only have about 20 minutes left, so we won't have time to do all 6, but I'll give you a little journey into how we can support one, the practice of gathering, interpreting, and using evidence, and how you can do that with some really unique collections on Newsela Social Studies. And then we'll jump ahead and look at civic participation, which obviously we know is a huge topic of conversation. It's definitely a practice that's spiraled throughout the curriculum. So we want to make sure that we're providing your students with some really authentic opportunities to live in that space and really do some of that work, not in isolation. So let's take a look quickly at our first collection here. I'm going to bring us right to Newsela Social Studies, to a collection where we, in addition to the courses that we offer on Newsela, we have a collection called Review Key Concepts and Skills, which is a really powerful collection if you're looking for opportunities to do that practice work in really digestible ways. As you know, if you've been in the classroom or you're talking to folks who are living and breathing and working in the classrooms right now, sometimes kids need those refreshers when it comes to not just the content, but the skills and the practices that we're asking them to demonstrate time and time again throughout the lessons and topics that we're bringing into the studies and the disciplines. So this collection lives within Newsela Social Studies. It's a fantastic way to reactivate some of that learning, whether it's in the core class or a tier 2 environment. And I love this topic, this part of the collection here entitled Social Studies Skills. It's a really fantastic way to isolate some of these skills that we know are spiraled throughout. We're asking students to do this repeatedly throughout the year, and really do some practice work before diving into maybe more of a guided extended inquiry opportunity. So I'm going to click into social studies skills, evaluating, corroborating primary sources. So in addition to a collection of primary sources here within this collection, it's also accompanied with a lesson guide here. And the lesson guide is really intended, again, to ground students and also teachers in that planning of looking and gathering and identifying that evidence within that specific New York State practice. So it gives you ideas on how you can make this come alive for your students, questions that they can consider as they're diving into some of these primary sources here. And also methodology, bringing in some of the methods that your teachers may already recognize and use in the classroom. So just in terms of getting folks to look at a resource through specific lenses, taking note of point of view, what are some of the techniques that this author is using, who is the intended audience, and building up that muscle. We really want to emphasize that. And we know you're doing a lot of that already, but sometimes kids need a little extra exposure, to say the least. So within these primary sources, I'm just going to pop into one of them just to remind folks of some of the functionality on the actual primary source level, but also any of the nonfiction we have on the platform. All of these texts are available at those 5 different reading levels. I will point out today, because I know we have an audience of social studies folks and history folks, that at the max level, that's always going to be the original language in the primary source. And then as you level up and down, this particular source, if students are looking at it to determine meaning and to garner meaning from it, it levels down to a grade 3, and then upwards of again to that max level, that original language at the 12th grade. This particular resource is also available in Spanish at 5 different reading levels. And you'll notice some of the functionality here too, in terms of the read aloud. And you have that right prompt and that quiz there that you can leverage with your students for this particular reading. I'm going to zoom back out for a second here, just spotlighting that skills collection again, because I think there's also an opportunity here to utilize some of the other resources. So you can definitely choose by skill. There's a lot of, I love this one here, identifying an enduring issue. Definitely harkens back to the enduring issues within New York State standards. How do we do that? What are some skills, especially when students are gearing up for that civic readiness project? And we also have a specific key concepts and skills collection built around civics. So that one, no need to mention, but I'll say it anyways, with the seal of civic readiness and a real focus on how to bring civic learning into multiple grade levels, multiple courses. This is another way, again, to revisit some of those key concepts and give students some opportunities to apply some of the resources and skills and practices to their experience with these texts. One last thing I'll point out here before I kind of show you a fun collection, not that these aren't fun, but we do have a data literacy collection that I'm excited to share with you too. These collections, anytime you see copy content, you're able to also copy the entire text set and then customize and make it your own. So depending on how you're spiraling these skills through the curriculum, the concepts through what you're teaching and your scope and sequences, it's just another way to really customize and make some of these resources your own. And I'll scoot over to the data literacy partnership we have. It's definitely a collection that some folks don't realize we have here on Newsela. We have a partnership with Tuva, which is a data literacy partnership that allows us to take data sets, so authentic data sets, and build in collaboration, supporting collections to help build that critical background knowledge needed to engage fully and evaluate some of those data sets. It's another way to hit on that practice that we talked about that's written into the New York State standards in a really unique way. It can serve as, and I'll click into one of them here, So exploring data with TUBA, this is the data set focused around the Declaration of Independence. It's really interesting because it looks at the different signers of the Declaration of Independence. It compares demographics of the signers. For me, naturally and intuitively, I wouldn't necessarily think there would be a data set that exists around this, but it definitely can be a very curious artifact to ground the conversation around the Declaration of Independence. So these data sets are drag and drop. And if I can figure this out, I'm confident you all can too. So all of these categories here, you can drag and drop into the X and Y axes here. And you can also look at, it's interesting, I wonder what occupation, you can look at birthplace, and also different ways to look at the data. So a line graph, a pie graph, and have discussions that are grounded in a visual with your students. You know, what's the best way to show this kind of data that gives you the information, especially if they're engaging in research projects and you want them to be able to look at and demonstrate their data in a way that makes sense to their audience. So really powerful partnership that we have within Newsela Social Studies, one of two that we'll talk about today, but one of many that exists with that part within that part of the platform to help enhance how you're bringing different types of text into the classroom and asking students to gather and interpret that information. So hopefully this was exciting for you to look at and something you didn't know about us before. I'm going to jump ahead to never least, but super important practice that's written into the standards here. So civic participation. We know that this is a heavy one in terms of wanting to be able to do this work, not in isolation within a specific course or grade level, but really weave it into the fabric of social studies programming. So we have some exciting updates within our Newsela Social Studies platform that can really support the ways that you're bringing civic learning into the fold. So into all of those different realms and courses that you offer in your district. We do have a partnership with C3 teachers, and I know C3 is at the forefront of much of what SSELA does, but also the ways that New York State districts are thinking and iterating on their social studies programming. So I'll hop into a really exciting collection that we have. And I lied, I'll talk about 3 partnerships. So this is the second one. We have a partnership with C3 teachers that has allowed us to really create some rich collections around inquiry, some of which you see on your screen here. So really taking some topics within these different arenas of Holocaust and genocide, US history, and creating some guided or enhanced inquiries around them that teachers can use to really support building that muscle and that inquiry capability within their students. So when they get to that capstone project or they get to that summative project that they're engaging in, it doesn't feel like such a heavy lift. Hopefully some of that has become ingrained in how they approach their thinking and skills work. So I'll pop into, you see there's quite a few here, but I'll pop into this one here, enhanced inquiry around youth voting. The key question being, am I going to vote? So in addition to the different stages of the task here, which are interviewing voters, voting in the American democracy, what does that look like? Issues driving youth political action. In addition to the curations of texts that you see on the screen here, you also have that panel on the right-hand side again, that's really providing some instructional guidance. And this is a perfect one. I think it's a perfect lead-in to some of the midterm elections or a complement to that collection that I'll show you in a moment. So teachers can pull from some of the panel here as they're creating their assignments. They may want to use the whole text set. They can pick and choose and use some. But I think the big piece too is at the end of these driving tasks here, tasks 1 through 3, you then have a summative performance task that asks students to really think about what they've learned throughout tasks 1 through 3 and how it may impact them taking informed action. So it's really intended to be that guided experience and opportunity to model some of those really important inquiry practices. So this particular summative task, it does follow the structure here of understand, assess, and act. And it provides you again with some guidance on how you can ask students to create an argument based on what they have experienced in these 3 tasks. So there's many opportunities here to leverage some of these inquiries in other subject matter areas. So, or courses, like thinking of maybe you would want to do the enhanced inquiry here on the US Constitution in your US history course. Maybe you benchmark another one in your civics courses. So there's a lot of flexibility here as well. One other collection I wanted to spotlight, and let me just take a quick peek here at the time. Perfect, is we do have time. I'll hop quickly in. Another collection we have on the platform is Discovering My State, looking at my state and my community, in this case, New York State. So what we've done here is we've curated a set of text that helps students kind of get the lay of the land, of the community, issues that have arisen in the community locally, statewide. And we've provided a project outline that can easily be adapted, grounded in really asking students to think about what is a topic that we would want to explore for a community action project. How might I leverage some of what I'm reading and researching to inspire a passion project like this and do some research around it? Depending on the grade band you're looking to use this particular collection with, so the Discovering My State collection will really dictate, how you use, I'm sorry, I lost my tab here, how you use that collection itself. But it's a really great formative stepping stone to some of that deeper work that students are doing, particularly at the upper grade levels, in terms of more of that capstone feel project. So love this resource, love to share it with you here. And hopefully it gives you an idea of how we can support in it, just scratching the surface, civic inquiry and some of the civic work you're doing in your districts. So being fully aware of how quickly our time is going here, there are definitely lots of ways to support the 4 domains of civic readiness that we know are critical to help students develop the key skills that they need to make those positive impacts in their local communities, but also across New York State and beyond. We do know elections do not exist in isolation, in that it's key for students to make connections to the past, where we are today, and also thinking of the future and the impact that they can have as an informed citizen. So as we think of these things, and we also think of the 4 domains here, we're excited to share our midterm election content and collections that we have for free that you can access now. It's so exciting. We'll share the link, and if someone thinks of it on the Newsela team, if you can drop it in the chat, that would be awesome. So it's midterm election season, we know that. And students and educators can use this collection to support and explore all sides of the policy issues that are top of mind for voters and also young people. This collection is fantastic if you're looking to hyper focus on some of those critical media literacy skills. And throughout many of the lessons and resources, you're also going to find embedded social emotional learning supports that can help teachers navigate and facilitate productive discourse in the classroom, especially with issues that we're looking at during election time. And it's really the only resource right now that's going to provide you that embedded SEL support, classroom ready videos alongside text on these current issues and polling. And we'll take a look at that now. So let's hop into the actual collection itself. And you'll notice that there are some units on the left-hand side here that are coming soon. So we're doing the strategic waterfalling of the delivery of these units. I'm going to click on the first one here just to kind of give you the lay of the land here. As I mentioned, there's many different types of ways to get students engaged and teachers planning with this collection. So there's a poll function here that actually aggregates the data from across the nation of how young people are thinking about some of the key issues here. When you share this out to students, this link, it'll actually ask them to participate in the poll, and you can have some real-time discussions on the results in class. There are also some really fantastic videos. I particularly love this video. It's a TED Talk around creating fake videos of real people. I was like, wow, what a title. Let's click on that and have a discussion about that. But in addition to the content that you see here, there are also supporting activities. And I do want to point these out as your teachers are diving in and they're looking to grapple with some of this material. Just activating for students, what do they know about the midterm elections coming up? But then diving into perhaps some of these deeper videos and articles around, how do you spot fake videos of real people? And I love the questions that exist here too. What are the implications and possibilities of using AI technology to create fake videos of real people? And I'm like, possibilities? I didn't really think of that, thinking of the word fake, but it's a really curious and interesting TED Talk. So definitely watch it and use it in the classroom, but watch it. And to call out just explicitly here, super powerful social emotional learning connections, inviting students to connect with actual community members. I could see this even being done as a class, reaching out to a community member and asking them, how do they get their news? How do they put a critical lens on the information that they're receiving? And again, reaching back to some of those practices, using the CART method. And also we partner with iCivics. That's a huge partnership of ours that's super powerful. So you'll find many of those resources woven throughout these lesson supports here. And we'll make sure to share with you all after today, but I'll preview it here. We have actually a content schedule to share with you so you can start thinking about how perhaps, and I'll make this a little bit bigger, you may want to use this in different grade bands in your class. So again, all of the election materials are free. You have a middle school content schedule available to you here. It shows you the intersection between the Newsela content as well as the iCivics opportunities, informative, fun ways to bring learning about elections into the classroom. And you'll notice week over week, we do an issue spotlight. And so those spotlights vary depending on whether you're looking at the middle school collection or the high school collection. So something to use in your planning, but to also get excited about. And maybe you're not doing every single topic and issue, but it'll give you a sense of, hey, I think my class would really respond well to that particular topic. It connects to immediately something we're doing in class. So there's a lot of rich discussion points here too on how to facilitate healthy discussion in the classroom. We know that awareness of your unconscious bias is huge, creating those norms. So just a reminder to folks how to frame that learning as they're planning for talking about midterm elections in the classroom. So I'm right at 3:30. Hey, it's a rare day I end on time. So love for you all to share in the chat too, what you're most excited about exploring after today's time together. I'm hoping we shared at least one or two things that you're like, a little bit more curious about. So happy to read those in the chat. I'll pull the chat up now. But thank you to everybody for joining. And I don't know, Greg, if you have any final words of wisdom here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley, for leading this session today. And I'm going to stop the recording now. We will be putting the resources that are shared out with us right on the website along with this recording. And again, just thank you all for making the time today to join us.